What's up, everyone? Episode 159 of Invisible Walls is off and running, as Ryan wants to call it, the not enough time episode. Too much stuff going on, too many games to talk about. We're probably not going to be able to jam it all into this episode. Best of all, though, we are focus testing some avatars for Marcus Beer. So make sure when you check out his avatar in this episode, you leave us some feedback in the comments. We will take your suggestions deathly seriously, just like we did when we made the avatar.
And now, Marcus's avatar. What do you have to say?
Oh, shit. So basically, every time I talk now, the avatar's going to talk, isn't it? It's going to...
Oh, my God. Kill it with fire.
Oh, my God. Seriously, it looks like my ex-wife. Oh, my God. I don't know whether to be insulted or honored that you've gone to the time. I mean, I know a lot of people have been asking about... I like my old avatar. I like my Joey Fatone avatar. You know, it harkens back to a more innocent Invisible Walls time.
Yeah.
Before I got mind-raped at Ignition.
So for the next few episodes, we'll be rolling out some avatars. Whichever one you guys like the most is the one we're going to use.
Is it fuck?
So here we are rolling up. I would say we're on the on-deck circle for E3, to use a sports analogy.
What does that mean?
That means you're the guy who's about to step up to the plate and bat. Meaning you're just about ready to get in the game.
Is that a cricket analogy?
I think it's snooker.
No, I think it's curling.
Yeah, it is coming down to it. Next week is the big E3 Judges Week. I'll be out of the office all week. I don't know if I'll be on the show next week. We'll have to figure that out. But I will be checking out a lot of the big games of E3 next week. And then unfortunately, I will not be able to share my impressions with you guys until the show because of all the NDAs and embargoes. But the one thing I do like about Judges Week is that it signals it's on the way. Booyah.
And the other thing you get to love about Judges Week is that you don't get to hang out with us for an entire week.
I don't have to go to work for a week. That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's like a vacation that's not. So anyway, we got a lot to get to today. Don't want to burn too much time on the intro. Obviously, you've heard from Marcus already and his wondrous avatar.
Arse.
You heard from Ryan already.
That's me.
And Patrick Morales is here today.
Howdy do.
And sitting alongside me is Daniel Bloodworth.
Hey there.
Let's get to it.
How is it you can bring no less than 3 suspects into my station and still manage to charge the wrong guy?
All right, so we're going to start off with all the big news stories of the week, all combined into our handy-dandy little news segment.
No beeps this week.
No beeps this week.
Our beeps. Our beeps sucked.
I don't know that there's any news worthy of the beeps this week. It's all kind of low-key stuff.
There's a couple of interesting rumors out there. I mean, LA Noire is getting a Rockstar Pass next week, which is going to cost you a further $10 on top of your purchase. That people are, speculating is going to be all the DLC that from all the pre-orders across the way. And some people are saying, it's the only way you're going to be able to get multiplayer content. And then they're saying, well, it's a story-driven single-player game. How are you going to get multiplayer? So yeah, that's coming next week. Does anybody have any idea?
I would think it would just be like the passes that are included in a lot of the EA games. Like you have a pass when you buy the game, or you buy it if you buy the used copy.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess it'd be more like the Cerberus network for Mass Effect, because LA Noire is a single-player game. We haven't seen too many of these passes on single-player games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm playing the game right now and have been for the last few days. There's definitely a pretty prevalent online component to it. I don't think I can say much more because I'm under NDA. But there are some kind of cool things I can see just from the title screen that they're going to incorporate into it. I can't mention it too much. I don't know how much this is going to tie into it or if they're going to charge you for it. But some pretty interesting things in the game in that vein. I think that's all I can say.
From some of the stuff that you've seen, without going into detail, do you think that you can see it being charged for and being value for money for $10 potentially?
What I've seen so far, I wouldn't think that they'd charge for. I wouldn't think. But that's about all I can say.
Of course.
Guys.
We'll have the full scoop on it next week when you're not here, actually. So you might just have to give us your Cliff Notes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the game will be handed off to other folks when I finish it. And so hopefully people will have a chance to play it before the show next week. I really wish we could have talked about it this week. I have a lot to say about the game. And I think it's a very interesting game that people are going to want to hear about. So hopefully I can make it work next Wednesday, but we'll see.
So you just give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down because nobody can see it. So just so I know.
That's a weird-looking thumb.
Yeah.
Kind of went all over
What are
the
those
place.
two hairy things growing from your thumb, Shane?
Yeah, I wish I could talk about the game, but I can't. It would be nice to kind of give our users a scoop on it before it comes out on Tuesday, but you're just going to have to wait for the review. Our review goes up on Monday morning at 9 o'clock, I believe. 9 in the morning?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, sure, why not?
We'll just pick it up.
9 o'clock somewhere.
It is next Monday, so make sure you come to the site and check out the review. It will be a big boy.
Transcending history and the world. A tale of souls and swords, eternally retold.
All right. This morning they announced Soul Calibur 5. It looks like they've separated the Soul and Calibur, which makes my editorial mind at ease once again. Because they seem to combine it into one word sometimes. Looks like it's 2 separate words. And I think that's about all we got out of the teaser that they released.
There were a few little tidbits that slipped. One being that this takes place 15 years after Soul Calibur 4.
If that matters.
You know, whatever info you can get, I guess.
15 years? What is that in the whole scope?
Our favorite
of
character is going to have gray hair.
Yeah.
Well, your soul's burning.
He's
that
actually going to be
entire
using
time.
just for
that
men.
is- Yeah, I guess 15 years could be a long time when your soul is burning.
What they meant with that specifically is that they wanted the 5th installment to be kind of a generational shift. So you'll see some returning characters, but at the same time, they want to introduce a whole new set of fighters. With that, also, there's a faster style of fighting that they're trying to go for. A lot of the weapons will be shorter now, not really those huge, like, lumbering two-handers.
So not as many ranged attacks,
Yeah.
long distance attacks.
Yeah, so you won't see, like, these huge two-handed sway-handers.
I honestly think that's good.
Yeah.
Because I felt like Soul Calibur had gotten away from what I really enjoyed about it at a certain point in its history. If I felt like half of the battles in the last Soul Calibur were taking place 20 feet away from the person you're fighting.
Right.
I like that much more up close and personal type of fighting that it had before. So
Well, if everybody's aging now, they don't have the energy to get away. It's actually based in a retirement community in Florida.
Yeah, does Voldo have back problems now?
Voldo.
So besides picking out
Oh,
your sword, you have to
man.
pick out your walker,
Getting
too.
excited.
Matching set.
And the younger generation that come out, once they beat you, they then tweet about it.
they pull out their little mobile phone.
Right. Other than that, just a really broad general reveal in the
Showed a
Namco
couple
Bandai
characters.
event, yeah. So I guess details TBD. There will be a guest character. Hopefully, no more Star Wars.
Toon Link?
Bayonetta is a rumor.
The one thing I will say that I took from the trailer, having watched it this morning, is that it suffers from the classic disease of all these trailers that tend to really come out of Japan, is that it was obviously done for a Japanese audience, and they obviously did the English language localization there, because the first thing you hear is cheesy voiceover man.
Well, it also doesn't match the lip syncing.
And the lip syncing when you get to later on, I mean, the
That's some Godzilla
VO
lip sync right there.
is just dodgy as hell. I mean, it looks pretty. There's a big sword in it with a skull in it. Apparently, the creator of the game is going mental on Twitter right now. He's just basically giving out secrets left, right, and center. So if you follow his tweet page, as it were,
You already know everything we've said.
Yeah, I mean, he even released a graphic that actually goes to show the breast sizes of all the characters in the new Soul Calibur game.
You're kidding me.
I kid you
That's
not.
part of their design.
It's part of the design doc, and trust
It
me to
is.
find that
They're
one.
lined
eh?
up in a little kind of
Yeah, they're all in
straight line.
profile, all in
Yeah.
profile, going from the lady with the large tatas to the one who is flatter than Cameron Diaz.
What?
I guess the thing that I'm most excited about for this Soul Calibur is that besides, Mortal Kombat recently showing everyone, hey, this is how you flesh out a game with modes, Soul Calibur in the past has, put on a pretty genuine effort to kind of do the same thing, even if it wasn't quite as successful. So I'm wondering if now they're using Mortal Kombat as kind of the new standard to kind of try and beat.
Captain, on deck!
Men, for the Ark to survive, we must have order. We must save the Ark!
All right, next we're going to talk about Brink. I think this game ended up generating a lot more hype by the time it
More
was
like
released.
stink.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of surprised at how much interest there was in this game right around launch. It kind of was a slow burn on our site for a while, but now that it's here, a lot of people seem to be interested in it. Patrick, you reviewed the game.
Indeed.
Kind of all over the place with the reviews for this, although most of them have been pretty low. I think you liked it.
I like parts of it.
I was actually surprised by your final score.
Yeah, I mean, when I first played the game, admittedly, the first day I did not take to it at all. But the more I got to play it, the more I got to level up my character, the more I got to play other people online, most importantly, the more it appealed to me.
And let's be upfront here. That's what this game is about.
Yes.
So do not buy Brink if you want to play a single-player campaign, because there really isn't one.
So don't buy the PlayStation version for the moment.
Right. Not for now.
Well, I mean, the other problem, though, is like there's this kind of barred entry. I mean, you were playing with just a limited number of people. But
at first, initially,
the problem with this sort of game is, let's be honest, the single player is not just non-existent. It's horrible. There's no sort of tutorial. They bribe you to watch 30 minutes of tutorial videos for 1,000 XP.
Yeah.
And then the game is basically just the multiplayer with bots, with some cutscenes. But when you have a high, this is a high-level multiplayer experience. You have kill zones, evolving objectives. You have Team Fortress 2, or Team Fortress is kind of a deep class system. And when you have a deep class system as opposed to a shallow class system, there's ridiculous amounts of balancing and a ridiculous amounts of knowing your role. You get thrown into this game, you're getting thrown to the wolves. There is no single player real train up, because even the single player is a confusing mess even after you watch the tutorials. So I think there's this kind of high bar to entry. And I know there's a lot of PC guys who are more down with the game, but it's still kind of a mess. I play games all the time. I was kind of shocked at how ridiculous, and I'm the Demon Souls guy. I ridiculously shocked at how hard it was to kind of get into this game.
Now, do you think with all the other shooters on the market, is there really any reason to buy this? It seems to me you should just get the orange box, right?
To that specifically, I will say that the Team Fortress 2 experience on the consoles is vastly inferior to what you'd get on the PC.
Right.
No hats?
Mainly because, no hats. Actually, that's better.
It's not even the same game.
It's not the same game anymore. Actually, Valve has been very, very, very good over the years to support Team Fortress 2 post-launch with a number of DLC, free content, and also actual mechanical upgrades to the game, where you would experience, new loadouts, new systems in the game. But you don't get that in the orange box. As to whether or not there would be an audience for Brink, I think it will have its fair share of supporters. Obviously, I don't see it going head-to-head with a game like Black Ops anytime soon, but certainly one of the reasons why I was drawn to it, I'm sure many other people would find reasons to play it, is because one, like Ryan mentioned, it has a very deep and precise kind of emphasis on class-based combat, which is something that a lot of console shooters are starting to adapt now. But I feel like Brink is one of the only games where it has it as a primary focus from the outset. Like Killzone kind of does its cool own things with the classes. Yeah,
it's
but
a shallow class system.
It's not nearly to the same depths and kind of strategic complexity as something you'd see. Yeah, exactly. Teamwork is a huge focal point of this game, which I think is really good and unique.
That's the good part and the bad part, though, right? Because you have to have, because it is so based on teamwork, you have to make sure that you're playing with a group of people who are down with the plan. Otherwise, it turns into a complete disaster. And I'm sure your experiences on Xbox Live or PSN are a lot like mine. If you're not playing with friends, getting people to actually coordinate can be a real pain in the ass.
Exactly. It's not the kind of game like, again, Call of Duty or Halo, where you could just as easily play Lone Wolf and still do pretty well, all while contributing to the team. There is a huge emphasis on teamwork, which makes this game a little divisive because, unless you have friends or people that you can hook up with online to form like a little fire team and coordinate, then it might be a little difficult. But at the same time, I think it does a decent job of trying to come up with impromptu organization, because there is a little objective wheel when you hit up on the D-pad, and it kind of points you into the direction of the most important objective you need to do, or a number of side objectives that you can kind of undertake on the side to help the team out. So I think people will more or less know what they're supposed to go to. But again, that's kind of up in the wind depending on the room at hand.
Not an especially good-looking game.
Yeah, and actually that was
I'm actually being pretty nice there.
I'll say this. I think the art design is kind of cool.
Do you like it? Like, I could see where it's polarizing. Some people would like it. I hate it, man.
The main characters are hideous.
I think the faces are really ugly. That really kind of elongated Guitar Hero.
Really good box art, though.
Yeah.
Like some of the best box art I've seen in a long time.
Well, the commercials, too, are all CG. And they don't have the little disclaimer at the bottom that says not in-game footage.
It would need that in the UK, though, right?
Yeah. I believe so. Yeah.
Once you cover up the faces, though, with like a good helmet or like a good mask, it looks pretty cool. And that's actually one reason that I do like the game as well. As you're leveling up, you unlock a lot of cool weapons and accessories and clothing options. And I think probably out of any other shooter out there, this lets you kind of flex the most creativity and personality with your own model, which is like a huge plus for this game, certainly. I mean, the biggest thing that I don't like about the game, and which is kind of reflected in other reviews, is that it's just lacking in content. It's only got 8 maps and it's 8v8 multiplayer.
That's ridiculous.
And you know that normally that would be kind of like an point, because if you look at Battlefield Bad Company, it shipped with 10 multiplayer maps,
Right.
and that's not such a huge number. But again, Battlefield Bad Company had a cool single player.
Black
and
Ops shipped with 14, I think it was.
I don't even count anymore.
We're talking about
We ship with a
that is
lot.
a
Yeah,
game that
they
is
ship with-
predominantly multiplayer. I mean,
campaign
Right.
in addition to that, and
Right.
zombies and all this other stuff that you can play.
Exactly. I mean, looking at Brink, it's a little less forgivable because the focus is on multiplayer. And if you only have 8 maps, then that's not something you can easily let slide.
Now, is this a
Speaking of
$60
sliding,
game?
the parkour.
The parkour.
This is a full $60 game with pretty much no campaign and 8 maps.
Correct.
No,
That's-
there's 2 campaigns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the non-campaign, really.
Yeah.
More like just play with yourself
How
and
about
bots.
the what if scenarios?
Oh, God. Again, you were saying?
Oh, he was talking. Marcus was talking about parkour.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the parkour.
Ryan was talking about parkour.
We
sorry.
get confused all the time.
We do.
You look so much alike.
I know, we're both dead sexy.
The parkour was easily one of the main sticking points for this game. I think that's mainly why a lot of people are excited for it. Just looking at one of the many well-produced trailers for the game, people are like, oh, cool. So it's like, Battlefield meets Team Fortress 2 meets maybe Mirror's Edge.
Yeah.
And I think, they were definitely going for that. But the glaring thing here is that not only is the parkour clunky, but it doesn't really work as well as you'd think it would. I mean, half of the things you'd expect to stick on or maybe slide under, nope. And
Screw that.
yeah, and plus, if
Is your
Screw
character
that.
very fat then?
no, I mean, I picked the lightest I could get, and I could actually do a wall jump with the lightest character frame, and I wasn't able to do really anything cool or out of the ordinary. It was mostly just, hold left bumper, and I could climb up this box.
Do you find yourself being in these uncomfortable moments and getting shot because of it, because you're trying to parkour?
Yeah, and I think actually parkour might sometimes be to the game's detriment, because you try to go out of your way to do something fancy, but that just makes you a sitting duck while you're doing all these tucks and tumbles in the air.
So who's this game for?
This game is for someone that wants something a little out of the ordinary, where it's not necessarily TDM or capture the flag. It's a game where you're doing random objectives, randomly generated objectives as a team with a character that you've leveled up and customized to spec. I think people that look for that particular kind of gameplay similar to Team Fortress 2 will definitely enjoy it. But again, I recommend it with a bit of caution, because there will not be a huge amount of content at launch. There will be DLC down the road. There is not a huge campaign if you're looking for that, and there aren't any other really outline content to it. Like, there's only 4 challenges to undergo.
Would
Should anybody buy this for $60? Anybody?
Right now, I would have to say probably not.
All right, next we're going to talk about a game I'm a little surprised there's been a sequel for. Well, the original was Warhawk, and now the sequel is Starhawk.
And that rumor's been going around for probably 2 years.
I was hoping
Yeah,
for
not
the
to be
Silver
confused
Hawks,
with
but
Star
the Copper
Fox.
Kid.
There was Street Hawk, wasn't there? Street Hawk was the bicycle, was the motorcycle. It was the Knight Rider ripoff
remember
from
that.
the from
Oh,
the
I
80s.
think you're all making the point is that this name is
Garbage.
There was a character called
Derivative.
Hawk in the second season of Buck Rogers in the 25th century in the 80s as well. He had a bird-shaped spaceship.
Now, Ryan, they've added tower defense to this
Yeah,
game.
I mean, I actually got to play the game. I flew out to Austin, Texas, which is kind of weird. And
Why is it kind of weird?
What's
because
wrong with
Austin's
Austin?
Weird. That's their motto.
Okay.
Keep Austin weird. And then, well, it is a game where you shoot dudes and you get energy, and then you can trade the energy to bring down things like turrets, walls, energy converters, anti-air, anti-ground, which is different than the turrets.
So they're moving everything into kind of like a futuristic palette.
Yeah,
right?
I kind of felt like if anyone, it felt kind of like a mix between like tower defense, or if anyone played this game called Goblin Commander, which was an RTS where you could actually tunnel down to a single unit and walk around. Wasn't that good, but it's kind of an interesting idea. It still is a straight up third-person shooter with no cover system. But the demo we played was, defend an area, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3.
Now, how does the tower defense stuff work? Are you on the ground shooting?
You can do whatever you
Or
want.
are you just
can
commanding
outright it
from bird's eye view?
Oh no, it's not like natural selection. It's you're there. You're always your character. I'm not quite sure how the AI commands work, because if you summon a bunker, you get some AI dudes. But there was two for one wave. There was guys coming from the left and the right, or north and the south, and I put a bunch of turrets down in a bunker, and then I didn't fight any of those guys, and they all got killed by my turrets and my buddies. And I went to the other side and just picked off the other enemies, which are like kind of like these mutated humans who are whatever. Who cares about the fucking story?
And now you're channeling Shane.
But there's no the story is like the Firefly movie, basically. I don't know.
That would make me more interested in it.
The third-person shooter plays well, kind of like a generous kind of lock-on. No cover system. They said that, it came up in the interview. They're like, well, we explored that, but it didn't work with our fast-paced game style.
Why? Why are they making this game? I mean, Warhawk was
it has a single player component now.
Is this a full price release, or is this
Who knows? I mean, I'm assuming, but yeah, the developers never know money, this early on.
Well, I mean, this isn't a PlayStation PSN store release, not downloadable. It's a retail game.
Yeah, because remember they released Warhawk with like
You're right.
these weird
With the
combinations
bundle,
and,
you could get the headset that way.
Right.
They wanted it to be like the gateway drug to Bluetooth headsets. I mean, the game was fun. The demo was fun. I'm just a little concerned that it's always going to be waves. They're like they pulled up the classic. You always see the JPEG of a bunch of straight lines curving a little bit, and like this is modern FPS development. And then they showed the Doom map where it's huge and traverse. Here they showed like Venn diagrams, and they were like, yeah, we're gonna have dynamic AI and all the fucking empty promises people always give you. Game was fun. Little concerned. I mean, you're not going to be managing resources too much. There's only 1 meter. It looks like there's only maybe 8 things to build, maybe 12. We didn't get to play the full thing. Didn't get to play the multiplayer because that's when we were conducting our interview. No multiplayer B-roll unless you watch GTTV or watch our interview. It's going on in the background. Some capture the flag stuff. Some guy did say the first thing he did was build 4 walls and a roof around himself, and then he was stuck in there for most of the match until someone blew it up. One of the cool things, it's a kind of a gimme, but it's cool, is if you have these things get dropped from outer space, they literally can land on someone and just like crush them to death. And of course, there's the Starhawks. It's no longer a conversion between a helicopter and a jet. It's a jet and a mech now. So your little, is it an AT-AT or an AT-ST? I can remember the little one. You're kind of walking around.
AT-ST.
And then when you fly around,
AT-ST.
when you fly around,
In Britain, it was an AT-ST.
when you fly around, I only flew around a little bit. It's a little disorienting because the right stick does not become camera. It becomes your dodge tool. So everyone was like freaking out when they first got into the jets because you're used to controlling your camera. You have the lock-on's really generous. You just highlight something. You don't even have to press a button, and you can unload 16 missiles on someone. Feels pretty good.
This game is an example, though, of one of the things I dislike about modern video games.
It's better than Brink at this point.
It's not even about the quality of it. It's like development studios have to spend so much R&D time and money to build these engines for these games that they end up sort of pigeonholing themselves into a place where they have to keep making the same game. And like, do we need this game? Like, would it be better served if this team went off and did something new?
It might be fun.
I'm not saying it's fully innovative, but I mean, like at this point, it's fun. With the demo I played, but that's the problem with vertical slices. I mean, wave-based combat is... I mean, how much do people hate escort missions in the history of shooters? Or,
in the history of any video game.
Or protect the, for us, it was protect the zone. It was get the zone and then protect the zone. And that's kind of like all it was. You do have a partner who wears a monocle, though, so that was pretty cool.
Look, these games sometimes they don't have to innovate to be fun. If it is a shitload of fun and it's not a full price $60 game, where's the harm in it? I am always
it's called losing money.
Well, I mean, when's Natural Selection out, Patrick? Natural Selection 2.
I'm not sure.
I mean, I feel like if this sounds enticing and you have a PC, you may want to try out NS2 for, I think, a more unique idea where someone is actually the RTS commander while other people are
I just think in last episode we talked about these B-level games, and to me this is an example of it right here. They just announced the game. Already you know what the interest level of the game is going to be. It's like, why? I don't know.
Yeah, but if people don't do these games, I mean, it may, like I said, it may sound generic in certain ways, but if the pricing is right and the marketing is right, personally, I am concerned about any PR event where part of the demo involves a Venn diagram. I don't think I ever did that in all my years. But
crazy customizable multiplayer though, like like perfect level N64 level of stuff. Like, you know, you can choose maps, disable everything, and just have a knife fight if you want, and crazy clan systems and setting up contests and stuff. Sounds cool if you're gonna get into the game.
Spill it, or we take you out in the alley and we knock it out of you. You needed the money, so you killed her.
That's not true, goddammit.
All right, next we're going to talk about Ryan's favorite game. I don't think any of us need to speak during this segment.
Minesweeper!
Yeah.
Woo! Actually, Marcus's new avatar actually comes from the new concept art from Dark Souls.
I believe we were turning into advocates for this game.
I'm a fan.
Ryan is.
Patrick also was with me when we saw it. Patrick did some handy camera work.
Patrick, talk about it.
I will let Patrick kick
I'll
it
be the
off.
hype man. Yo, Dark Souls. Take it
Yo,
away,
man,
Ryan.
you're the hype man.
Kick it off, man. Kick it off.
Yeah, I mean, I love Demon Souls. Probably not as much as Ryan, but certainly it has been one of my favorite games in the last few years. We got to take a very small look at Dark Souls the other day, and unfortunately, it wasn't quite as huge or revealing a meeting as I had hoped, and I'm sure Ryan would echo my sentiments. But
I would agree.
We definitely got to see some cool things, mainly one new dungeon or world in Dark Souls, which looks like a medieval castle. And one of the most striking things about it, first, is that it's in daytime, right? And lots of bright colors, which is kind of like a stark contrast to the kind of gloom and doom you're used to seeing in Demon Souls.
Well, when you're indoors, it's definitely dark as well.
Yeah.
But like in the more tattered halls where the light kind of pierces through, it's definitely a little brighter.
So wait, are you actually outside in
It
daylight?
started outside, and they teased us at the very end. They were running towards an exit, and you could see like these lush trees. And then they got rolled over by a giant bowling ball, and they fell to their death. Because that's the thing they really wanted to show off was more environmental hazards. Like they said, this was kind of the
So that
traps.
like an Indiana Jones type thing.
Yeah, like swinging pendulums, like huge blades.
Arrow traps. You step on a loose plate, and they had those in Demon Souls, but they were few and far between. I think my two favorite things that we saw were there was an elevator that you got on, and it stopped at a floor, and they're like, oh, let's ride it up a little more, and it just rides you up into a bunch of spikes that are sticking out of the ceiling. And the other one was one of my favorite enemies across fantasy games is they went up to this chest, and unfortunately we have no footage, no screenshots. They went up to this chest, and like, oh, a chest. They open it, these two arms come out, pull the playing character into the chest, and it chomps him for 3/4 of his health, so it's a mimic. But then they back away, and usually, you just kind of whack it with your sword or whatever. It then stands up, and it's about 12 feet tall. It unfurls these giant legs, and then it tries to punt you around the room.
Yeah, it looked insane.
It looked really cool. I think the other thing that important to note is it was way more. The whole game is supposed to be way more nonlinear, and even the level that we saw, there was a lot more paths. Demon Souls had some routes to take. But for the most part, except for maybe 3-1, the prison, it was pretty straightforward with maybe a couple divergent paths. Here, there were different paths everywhere to go. And they did confirm that there's no load times except when you die, so there will be that kind of consistent world thing. Unfortunately, they wouldn't talk about things that have been revealed to the Japanese press, so they didn't talk about the new oath system, which is going to probably be the backbone from what we've heard of like how the PvP is going to work, where no one's particularly taking an evil path. You just like, I have an oath to defend this, I have an oath to destroy this, that sort of thing. Still pretty vague, but sounds pretty cool. They did reconfirm that there's going to be more spells that are multiplayer focused. There was a handful in the first game, but like this time they're really trying to kickstart the online parts of it.
Also, systems like World Tendency will be returning.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that in the menu, and they're like, "Oh, this isn't final yet." But when we asked about how much of the game's going to be randomized, especially when you're talking about traps and treasure chests and stuff, they're like, "Well, that treasure chest is always going to be there. It will always be a mimic. These traps will always be the same. But due to something that we can't talk about, probably World Tendency, there will be different variations on different parts of the world. So your actions, or even maybe the server's actions or whatnot, can actually change how the game's going to respond and differentiate itself from like different play times. They gave the beacon fire a little bit of talk, but still it's basically safe spots where you can heal, and
They're like little, I guess, camping points where you can rally with other
Summon
players
people.
online, form a party, and venture forward. They did say, though, that it will not be replacing a kind of hub world like the Nexus did in Demon Souls, so you can expect to see both kind of coexisting with one another.
Oh, and the new enemy we saw other than the mimic were these like snake people. Did anyone ever see G.I. Joe, the movie, the cartoon movie?
Yeah.
Remember when Cobra Commander
Turned into
becomes
a
like a
snake,
giant
yeah.
snake guy?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
that. They have like legs and arms, but this giant neck And the little magic user was more of like a hydra of like little arms or little snakes sticking out of the chest. But they got hit with the special attack on purpose, and it like latched onto the player character's shoulder, banged him on the floor, and then catapulted him like 10 feet. I think if you watch the trailers, the monsters are definitely taking center stage. There's some cool stuff on, like, you may only see them for fleeting frames, but there's some cool stuff. Really cool monsters.
Unfortunately, no sightings of dire boars or dire wolves, but I'm sure they're there somewhere.
Now, have you seen anything about this game in all the times you've seen it that has you concerned?
I'm super hyped for it, and I'm glad that it's more of the same, but seeing it in person, since I've only seen the trailers, I know, Daniel, you got to see it at the Namco event a couple months ago, it does look a lot like Demon's Souls, and it's not a sequel, technically, so, I mean, it looks a lot better, though, the character detail and the lighting. I'd be concerned for the 360 version. I'm not 100% sure on this, but I heard that it uses Fire Engine, which is not, I guess we always see it at the GDC Sony booth. I guess it's not exclusive to PS3, it's just a partner. So I am curious how the port to the 360, we saw it on PS3, and they didn't let us play it. I'm just a little concerned. I'm slightly happy and slightly disturbed that the kind of what did I say? Jiggly corpses are back.
Physics.
Yeah, the corpses are still very, not as bad as the first game, but still kind of a little ridiculous with how much they kind of fall to the ground and kind of act like jello.
There's a nightclub in this sector called The Hive. If our hacker went to ground here, chances are the owner will know.
All right, as an editorial caveat, Daniel Bloodworth was gracious enough to play the crap out of Deus Ex. We had a plan to do a preview around the first 10 hours of the game. It didn't work out, so here he is to deliver to you his impressions of the first 10 hours of Deus Ex.
Yeah, and that's kind of it's an interesting estimate because I would say it's probably the first quarter of the game. But this is one of those games where there's going to be, there's so much choice in it that the play times are going to be just drastically different.
Well, no two first 10 hours will be the same, right?
Yeah.
Which version of the game did you play?
They've given us PS3, I think, every time so far. So yeah, PS3 version. But yeah, it's really interesting because the last time I had a preview build, every time they've kind of given us like the beginning of the game. So like I played through the same stuff, but this time I didn't have like a bunch of like added on points and stuff that they gave me before.
So you had to earn it. This is really what it's going to be like to progress through the game.
Yeah, and my original goal was to kind of multipath the whole thing and just bounce around through save files and like try everything twice. That worked through the first part that I had played before. Then once I got to the hub, it was just everything opened up so much. It's like, okay,
not
this
even possible.
This isn't going to work out.
And this hub is more than you might expect, right?
It's a lot more than I expected.
Are you talking about Detroit?
Yeah, okay. Detroit is the first kind of city that you're in where you're able to explore, and there's probably 4 or 5 big side quests there, and a lot of territory to look through, and a lot of different routes to get to different places.
Now, how do you progress through the game? How's the structure work?
It's an objective-based structure, so you have a mission, and it's up to you to kind of figure out how to do that. And there is, I think, the thing that the hub introduces that you don't see so much in the first action mission is that this game has a lot of detective work involved in it. So while you're in the hub, you're actually not doing hardly any shooting at all. You're
sounds familiar.
Ooh.
So you're looking for evidence. You're breaking into people's computers, trying to find ways into locations so that you can get evidence and gear and things like that. You're also wanting to just get experience. You get experience for lots of different little things, just like finding hidden passages and stuff. Will reward you with experience. Getting through an action mission on a complete stealth without killing anybody, you'll get experience bonus for that if you haven't alerted anybody.
Now, is it pretty obvious how to stay on the primary campaign path in the game?
Yeah, it's kind of like Fallout in that, to where you could like probably just blow past all the side quests and not even do them and go straight to the main quest. But if you do explore and you do talk to people, then you'll pick up other missions. And I think that's one of the interesting things about the character is that he is a deeper, more developed character. And so because this is Detroit, this is where he's lived, a lot of people know him. he has different interactions with different types of people. There's like a bum on the street that you can kind of bribe to get some info out of on where some hidden passages might be and that kind of thing, and some arms dealers. There's a lot reflected in your actions from even just from the first mission. You know, some of the how you handled that will alter like news stories and how people talk to you, and possible rewards that you can get here in the hub.
Did you get a sense of how balanced it is at this point? Did you feel like going through all those side quests made the main quest too easy, or did they do a good job of
It didn't feel too easy. I think the thing is there's a sense with a lot of the world where it feels kind of like a Metroid Prime or something, where like you can see, oh, okay, this is a wall that I could bust through if I have that ability, or there's something that I need to like jump off a building to get. But the difference is all of those abilities are up to you. So, you know, as you gain experience, then you get these, you know, basically augmentation points called praxis points. But you can also like shop and buy extra praxis points or find them in the world. And then it's up to you. Do I want to put that into something mundane like inventory or picking up heavier objects, or do I want to go with something flashier like the Typhoon, which like sends out this 360-degree explosion around you?
Now, does the game allow you to go back to any other prior area you visited and use all this stuff? Is it an arduous task? Can you warp around, or do you have to run back physically through the entire environment to get back? How does that work?
Yeah, as far as the hub goes, yeah, you're walking back and forth through the hub, and afterwards, once you leave Detroit, though, I'm not sure if you can come back. I think I was able to do everything significant. There's little rooms. There's hacking terminals that I didn't have enough of a hacking skill to get into, that kind of thing. I don't know if I'll come back to Detroit or not.
Were there prostitutes?
Yes.
It is Detroit. No offense to people from Detroit.
We're going to get some angry on the hook questions.
I think there's definitely some nice little bits in there for fans of the first Deus Ex. I'm really glad that I just played through that recently, because there are returning characters, even though it's like 25 years or whatever in the past. There's a character that I have a theory on that hasn't been named yet. And people that remember exploring in the beginning of the first Deus Ex should do some similar things in this. I won't give away too much. But then going back to like his interactions, like there, like this guy actually has people that he's annoyed with, and frustrations that you see. Like he has his own apartment. And you can kind of like dig into some things that's been going on with his apartment manager, and it's pretty cool there. They're also. I tried doing that first mission with combat, because before I did it all stealth, and the combat is definitely more of a, like a cover-based shooter. Like it's not that difficult, but you don't go out in the open. If you get out in the open, then there's 2 or 3 guys you're going to get shot down pretty quick.
Would you say it's more actiony than Mass Effect 2? When you're
no,
shooting?
I think Mass Effect 2 probably has more action.
Really?
Like I think that's more of a faster pace.
Would you say it's kind of the same kind of school of thought where you have these RPG games with a high action element, like reflexes are required, even though it's more thoughtful? But
yeah,
it's still not quite
there's
up there with
definitely like guys flanking
shooter.
you and stuff like that. But I would compare it more to like a Metal Gear, or maybe a little bit like Red Dead. To where you want to be taking cover and watching where guys are coming from. Rather than just like running around really fast and shooting things. But that's going to depend on, what kind of weapons you go with and stuff like that. What else was... Oh, the conversation trees were really interesting. There's like basically... I got to test out 2 different sort of arguments where you're trying to persuade somebody. And the first one I did a bunch of different times. And I guess that maybe that's a tutorial-ish one, because no matter what I did, I could never get a fail state out of that conversation. You pretty much always got where I wanted, even though there were a lot of different variations in how the conversation played out. The second one was almost the opposite, where it was really hard to keep from pissing this guy off, basically.
Now, you're at the 10-hour point.
Mm-hmm.
With games like this type of game, a game of this length, that's usually the tipping point. That's where you're either in it to win it, or you may be ready to bail. Do you feel like when the game shut you off, you were like, damn, like I need to play more of this game, or were you like, eh?
No, I definitely want to play more. It's a different kind of thing though, because it doesn't have like that emotional like thrill moment. It's more of a thoughtful, methodical kind of thing. It's like, you know, I want to go around. I want to see, you know, what I can test the waters with, and just every place has different paths to go through. So it's interesting seeing that. You know, like do I try to appease this guy and go into a place, or do I try to find a back way in?
What's the release date for this game?
August.
We're done for now.
All right, so that's it for episode 159. Pretty cracking episode, as Marcus would say.
Like a Christmas cracker.
Yep, a little bit of LA Noire, a little bit of Soul Calibur, Dark Souls, Brink, Starhawk, Deus Ex. Not a bad lineup.
When you talk about Brink, though, there's more crapper than cracker.
More crapper than cracker. So next week, we'll be diving into E3. We'll also be announcing our big E3 plans to you guys to let you know what we're doing. Still some things under wraps, but next week we should be good to talk about all that stuff, so we'll be sure to pass that along. Hope you guys all have an excellent weekend. Invisible Walls is up and out.